John Bonine is a broker of ideas, a connector of scholars, a viral communicator who turns perfectly nice, reliable lawyers into green crusaders in black gowns. He teaches at the University of Oregon, where he created the world's first environmental law clinic and established the huge annual Public Interest Environmental Law Conference. He's the co-founder of E-Law, the Environmental Law Alliance worldwide, which connects 300 environmental lawyers in 70 countries. One environmental lawyer can't do very much, but a global network of activist lawyers is a powerhouse, and John Bonine is its architect. John, people talk loosely about environmentalists and environmental actions and so on and so forth. There's some phrases that are sometimes not terribly complimentary that they use, and one of them is tree huggers, and another is the kind of people who care about the spotted owl. But you're the guy that really cared about the spotted owl.
The spotted owl litigation, which people know about, particularly in the United States, that is preserving the old growth forests because of the need to preserve the northern spotted owl. Let's say it started with scientists, it moved into popularizers, and from there it moved in litigation, and from there it moved into politics. Well, I spent 6 years at EPA, and at the end I was the head of the Air Pollution Division of the General Counsel's Office after I also had some other adventures, which perhaps you want to get into later. But I left EPA so I could come back to the American West. I'm a Westerner, and I finally said, you know, I've got to get out of this swamp, as I think a recent politician has called it, and return to the West. And so I managed to get this job at the University of Oregon Law School. And I started working in this environmental law clinic, and I realized we don't have the resources. The environmentalists do not have all the resources. It was not, even if there were some easy victories out there, we didn't have the resources to bring them, to bring the cases. So what could we do to increase the growth of the environmental law movement? That became my question.
If I can just pause there for 1 second, what strikes me is the enormous responsibility that people like you are taking on, and the complete lack of an understanding of what you had, in a sense, the future of the whole natural world in the Northwest in this case. It's all on the shoulders of a handful of people like you.
Yeah, but what was the old military phrase? The impossible, the difficult we do immediately, the impossible takes a little more time. The idea, I think the question is not, you're right, the shoulders are not broad enough to do all the work, but that's why we needed to grow the number of shoulders. Yeah. That's why we needed to increase the number of people to do the work.
So now, let me get you to resume the story, but it seems to me that it's worthwhile just pausing for a second and saying, you know, the natural world is being defended by this tiny handful of people.
Well, can you imagine that the ancient forests of Oregon, these huge trees that have been here, some of them for 1,000 years, are being defended by a bunch of law students who don't even yet have a law degree? Absolutely. So we had several things going on. We had the clinic, which we started to do, and there was a great demand for that. A huge number of students at the University of Oregon come here to do environmental law. That is their purpose, and they join the clinic, among other things. The other thing that happened is I came here after graduating from law school, after being in the Army, after being at EPA. I came out here as an elitist. That is, I thought, get good grades, join the, you know, top environmental law firms, whatever they might be, and you'll have a good career. A student came to me after I'd been here about 2 years, and she said, John, we didn't go to Yale Law School, and we're not all in the top half of the class. Isn't there anything for the rest of us? And it just hit me like a ton of bricks that I had been saying, get the top grades so that you can get the jobs that are already out there, when what I should be doing is creating more jobs. Not having my students knock out a Yale or Harvard or Columbia or Stanford student, because what does that do to the environmental movement? Now, you have to understand, and I tell students this every year when they come, if you want to become rich, become an environmental lawyer. Because 95% of the environmental lawyers in the United States and elsewhere in the world work for business and industry and not to protect the environment. About 3% work for government and about 2% work for the public interest. 95%, they're not there. I don't know why people think that if you're an environmental lawyer, you have to love the environment. Tell me a tax lawyer who loves taxes. Yep. Tax is a field of law, right? Criminal lawyers, no, they don't love crime, they work on both sides of the issue. Environmental lawyers, they work mostly against the environment. So the question is, how could that 2% become 2.1% or 2.2%? How could we grow more environmental lawyers?
I've also wondered, Tony Opoza, whom I think we both know and admire very much in the Philippines, when he did that landmark case against Factoran on behalf of future generations, Factoran was privately delighted with that whole thing. And as Tony says, the legal action put the wind under his wings.
Yeah.
I've occasionally wondered if one of the most subversive things one might do would be to cultivate carefully relationships with civil servants in crucial spots, so that the less that they understand that you and they are in many cases on the same side. They'd like to do the right thing, and if you really go after them and put pressure on them, you in a sense allow them to stand up to the pressures on them.
That's right. That's absolutely right. What I perceive the government is a bunch of trees or reeds, and if the wind comes always from industry, always from corporations, always from those favoring pollution, those trying to destroy the wilderness, the trees will bend. The wheat will bend. But if we can bring counter pressure, then those civil servants can do what they know is right. Because if we can create enough controversy on the other side, we can accomplish that. And we know they're already there. We know they're already there because we get documents in the mail in a plain brown envelope. Or, as we say, I don't know where this document came from, but it fell off the back of a truck that was driving through town. So we have people who will help inside, and they're doing their democratic thing because information should be free. And they will help, and they need to continue to help, maybe now more than ever.
John Bonine, the world's great organizer in the field of environmental law. If you want to meet some of his friends and allies, take a look at our Green Rights film, or my book, Warrior Lawyers. Or look at our interviews with such towering figures as Antonio Opoza Jr. in the Philippines, Roger Cox in the Netherlands, or his colleague at the University of Oregon, Mary Christina Wood. Right now, environmental law is one of the most exciting fields in the whole environmental movement. For the Green Interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. Visit us again soon.